Kathleen Dean Moore threw a rock into the river, and the sudden curl made her grin. She writes, "We are caught up in a river rushing toward a hot, stormy, and dangerous planet. The river is powered by huge amounts of money invested in mistakes that are dug into the very structure of the land. A tangled braid of fearful politicians, preoccupied consumers, reckless corporations, and bewildered children, everyone in some odd way feeling helpless. Our work," she says, "and the work of every person who loves this world," and she reiterates, "this world," "is to make small deflections in complacency, a small obstruction of profits, a blockage to business as usual, and then another and another to change the energy of the water." Kathleen Dean Moore went camping recently with her 3-year-old grandson along the shores of the Pacific Ocean. And this little boy, in love and fascinated with starfish, held one in his hand. And as he was holding it, this little guy described it as soft. And he knew at age 3 that this was a sign that the starfish was sick. And he said, his mom must be around here someplace. The starfish is sick and needs his mom. The cove that they were exploring together was filled with starfish just a summer ago. And now they found only 2. The others were wasting away with lesions forming, tissues decaying, and the starfish literally falling apart. Now, is it the result of warming seas or a pathogen? Most likely both. She writes, "These days, so many local catastrophes are linked to planetary catastrophes. A world getting hotter and hotter, and I am afraid for the small child by my side." A warning from Stanford scientists, I quote, "Unless we take immediate action by the time today's children are middle-aged, the life support systems of the earth will be irretrievably damaged." The very life supports of this earth. And this is all a part of my focus as I study intensely all 8 pounds of Sophie Rain Goldsmith on the night she was born. What's this going to mean for her? To live on a planet whose life support mechanisms are diminished and broken. Now, if we listen to the river, like Kathleen Dean Moore, Edward Abbey, James Dillard Fremont, John Muir, if we listen carefully, we will hear a plaintive cry to change the direction of its flow. Impede it with acts of protest and civil disobedience, each act an obstruction that will force the river to flow in new ways. And Kathleen Dean Moore calls it the work of disruption. What does that mean to you? The work of disruption. Just a week ago, I met a sister of a very dear friend of ours who was returning from Berkeley, where they celebrated the 50th anniversary of the free speech movement. She was an integral part of that protest, and now that particular ilk of good people, believe it or not, are hovering around age 70 or so. And they're feeling plenty nostalgic. Those were the days when their high energy carried many particles like a mighty river heading for ocean waters. And so I asked her, what role does protest play now? And I was thinking to myself, has a depletion of energy forced us to drop what we were meant to carry? So where are we now? What happened 50 years ago was great. Where are we now? And she said, well, that was discussed, but the emphasis remained on the reunion and the 50th anniversary. The work of disruption means something very different today than it did during the tumultuous 60s. Our worries today, our worries about the state of the planet and what future generations will have to bear, are obviously not the worries of today's corporations, politicians, anyone from the fossil fuel industries. No, these are singularly our worries as we watch myriad life forms contained in the waters around the world dying as temperatures rise, oceans rise, and the time remaining for a modicum of sustainability shrinking, at times just shrinking in unforgiving and unrelenting ways. And so these are our worries. The worries of those of us who hold our children, who hold our grandchildren, who hold our great-grandchildren. It's the worry of all of us who, in fact, listen to the river. And when we take our little ones to the rivers, to the creeks, to the oceans and lakes and ponds on this planet, we worry. And we realize, I think all of us do, that the work of disruption remains the most important work that all of us, especially grandparents, need to do. So be it.